welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I am your host, Mary Catherine Ham. I'm here with my co-host, Vic Mattis of the Washington Free Beacon. We got a lot going on today. We're going to have Israel conflict update with some uplifting content from the mall yesterday. It was a large gathering at the pro-Israel rally. We've got a government deal to, I don't know, keep funding and stuff. They did the thing, Vic. They did the thing in the House. There's fighting on the Hill, and I don't just mean the rhetorical kind, so we'll get into that. And Nikki Haley has some thoughts on your online anonymity, plus the Marvels. We're going to talk about all of that on the show today, but before we do that, how's it going, Vic?
Hello, Mary Catherine. Long time no see.
Yep.
I wanted to talk very briefly before we get into the rest of the news. I wanted to talk about Siberia.
Okay. Fair.
Not Siberia, Russia, where where the gulags are and where, political prisoners get sent away, but rather Siberia in the restaurants. Okay. Those are the tables that sometimes they send you to that are the least ideal of the tables. Normally people tend to equate Siberia as the tables near the bathroom.
Right.
Those. Even if there's they'll put the half wall to kind of give it some semblance of, normalcy and
civilization over
there.
there.
And keep the customer's dignity somewhat intact. But then, people are going in and out. You hear the flushing, whatever. I got sent to Siberia for the second time at this place, and it's not located near the bathroom. This is Ted's Bulletin.
Okay.
There's several of them in our area.
Yes.
My daughter loves it there for brunch. Brunch is fine. Brunch is fine. It's fancy. It's very nice looking. That's not fancy, but it's nicer than a diner, right?
It's a good place, yeah.
It's a good place.
It's a good, solid brunch place.
Although a friend of ours, Dan Helper, is not a fan. And I said, why not? He says, what's the point? Is what he says. But anyway, so I said, we're going to go to Ted's Bulletin. I get it. So we're going there. It was kind of busy. So it's weirdly designed. This is the Ted's Bulletin in Boston. To go to the hostess station, you have to cut through some tables, and then it's behind one booth. Then the hostess station is there.
Okay.
Behind one of the booths. So it's like 3 or 4 booths. There's like the main entrance, the door, 3 or 4 booths, and then the hostess station.
Okay.
So we go up there, and the hostess just says, well, why don't I just sit you right here, directly in front of the hostess station? Dude, that's Siberia. And I know people like the late Tommy Giacomo would insist that places at the Palm had no Siberia. There was a Siberia there, too. So this is clearly Siberia, Ted's Bulletin. We get there. I'm sitting on the edge of the booth. Then we're getting into brunch time.
Right.
The line starts to form.
Oh, no.
Right along
right
your
next
table.
To you.
And now I'm seated, and some of these people, obviously not some of these people are standing. If I turn to my left, I'm looking at a butt.
You're butt level.
Yeah, I'm butt level with these people, and some of them have their butt facing the table.
No, don't love that.
One was like on the verge of resting on the table, okay? And I'm like, and the kids are laughing at me, and sometimes a family has like babies and kids. So then they're just staring at you. The little kids are staring at you while you're eating, and I pretend to have a conversation with the kids. I'm like, hi, how are you?
Oh, and then you're weird.
And then you're weird. Some people recognize the awkwardness of this, and so they would try to, like as if you were still socially distancing, like
right,
during
you
COVID
want to give
time.
a buffer here,
even
if there's not really a buffer to give.
But other people, there's like party of 6, party of 7, so they're all just piled in now. And I'm just going to say, I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not doing it. I refuse to be sent to Siberia.
Yeah, are you a guy who asks for a different table? In general.
I've done it.
Yeah.
But not in general.
Okay.
In general, I'm pretty good about it. But, that dictates the rest of the experience there.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
It does.
I think this is a fair position.
And you know me, I'm not usually accustomed to that.
Oh, I know. You royal treatment.
Come on.
But not at Ted's Bulletin.
But not at Ted's Bulletin. How dare they?
I echo Halper and say, what's the point?
Yeah. And I was going to say, do you know who I am? I usually get table 98 at Joe's. No, okay.
I speak frequently about restaurants on podcasts.
If you had faces on the wall, I'd be on your wall. Mary Catherine, how are you?
I'm good. Things are going well at the household.
Good.
We've been taking care of various toddler and baby well appointments and all that kind of stuff.
Wellness, yes, baby wellness.
Yeah, you gotta these kids, they got to go to the doctor a lot. And not because they're sick even, but just because it's scheduled for that first year.
Yes.
And I have a lot of children, so I
Shots and
lose
checkups.
track of
You do have a lot of children.
which one has been to which appointment. And at one point, now it does get less important as they get older. At one point, my 6 or 7-year-old was like, Mom, when's the last time I went to the doctor? And I was like, that's a fair point. It's a little bit past your birthday. Why don't we try to get that well appointment in? So we went in, and all they do is measure her and check her out. It's no big deal. It was not urgent.
But it's impressive that your child wanted to go.
Yeah, well, I think she was feeling left out because the babies were going.
Hey,
so
everyone's
often.
getting an injection. Why don't I get the needle?
Shouldn't someone check on me? And so we made sure that happened. But I do lose track. And then
my favorite line, of course. I love to hear you say it from Raising Arizona, Frances McDormand.
Gotta get your dipped head, honey. You can't go out without his dipped head. So we're invested in the dipped head and getting that done,
as we should be. Yes.
So the point being, I have 4 children, but the funny thing about my pediatrician in this modern day and age, it's got an app and it's very.
Yes.
It's a lot, guys.
Yes,
and you go in and you can check in on the app. Of course, that takes 3 times longer approximately than checking in at the desk, which is what we used to do.
Yes.
But the weird thing about the app and the technology and my pediatrician is that seemingly no one knows that I have 4 children, that they're all related, and that I've been coming to this practice for some almost 10 years now.
So they just look at you.
Like they're just like, oh, here's another one. Is this your first? I'm like, no. Is it not in my chart?
Yes.
Like, would I be this sloppy with my first kid? No. Sure, we missed 3 well appointments, but this is the fourth.
They see so many kids, they just don't.
This
is
the fourth.
It just blends.
And I was asked to produce my insurance card on this occasion, and I said, again, I've been here for almost 10 years. And you have had this insurance information that has not changed for 4 of them.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we just check at least once a year. And I'm like, well, I have 4 kids and you guys can't line it up, which means for me, you're checking 4 times a year.
Single time. Yeah, because it'll be the last time for each kid a year.
I do. I hate to be like a hackneyed comedian, but I do think that maybe technology sometimes is not making our lives better. This kind of thing that I run into all the time, like when you fill in all your information at the urgent care or at the rental car place online, and then they
repeat
make you do it again. I've stopped doing that. I will not do the online part.
They ask you, this happens a lot, by the way. I'll do this on the phone. I have to refill a prescription. And then the automated voice will ask you for, date of birth.
Yeah.
And then any number of these questions, and then, name, address. And then you get the human, date of birth, name, address. What was the first time?
Yeah. Exactly.
Where did that go? Into the ether.
I think just so they can sell your info to other people. That's what's happening. My youngest also learned a trick when we got back from the doctor. We were sitting on the couch together and he was whining. Mm-hmm. And so I gave him a water bottle. And the new trick that he has learned is that he sips from the water bottle and then, like a fountain, spits it across the room. And unfortunately for me, who should be discouraging this behavior, it was so funny that I couldn't stop him. And in fact, my jeans got soaked because he's sitting next to me and he's just like, every time he takes a sip, over and over again.
Your kids are going to become the kids from Raising Arizona. Remember when they go to the trailer? They're just throwing the cereal against the wall. Yeah.
So my problem solving for this is not, hey, you should stop doing that, child. My problem solving is, look, if I take the water bottle away, he's going to cry. It's just water.
It's just water.
And so when...
out of somebody's mouth.
When Steve came down the stairs, I was like, babe, can you throw me another pair of sweatpants? And that is how you motherhood in my house.
That's how you get it done. Just get her done.
That's my kid. All right. That's my impression of my child. All right.
Yes, spitting.
Is this your first? No, ma'am. All right. Let's talk about the Israel rally on the mall.
How many fights did you get into, Mary Catherine, and how many flags did you burn?
Well, I got into 0 fights, saw 0 people saying they hated America. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing, guys. There were...
Unusual.
Now, obviously there were always conflicting estimates of how many people came. The organizers did actually have specific entryways, so there was a way of counting by the organizers how many they have, and they claim 290,000. It was a lot of people. It was a lot of people, and I know that folks were coming in from all over the country.
Thousands doesn't do it justice when they say thousands show up.
No. Thousands did not do it justice. I walked from 6th, the crowd went from right in front of the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
I walked from 6th Street all the way down to the official entrance at 12th Street.
Okay.
And there were people the whole way down.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of...
You didn't run into my wife.
I
or my father-in-law.
That is one of those things where people are like, I'll see you there.
Right.
It's like, nobody's going to see anyone there. But unless you're on stage.
You wouldn't know it, by the way, from the New York Times coverage, which I saw being mentioned. Not a lot of coverage.
No, and the Washington Post put it on their local section. It's in the metro section when there's a national gathering of the Jewish people.
Like the anti-abortion rally, as I'm sure they'd love to call it. Yeah, sure. Same.
Metro section. Yeah. Anyway, it actually was quite uplifting to be there. I'm not a protest culture girly. I don't generally go out except to cover things. And I was, took some pictures.
Not girly, but I mean, we're journalists.
So I got to cover. But look, in this case, I felt like, what I feel like is that often the MO of certainly our far left protest culture is to make you feel afraid to come out and protest.
Yes.
And to make you feel like, no, you have to stay in your house. I mean, explicitly it was you have to stay in your house during COVID, and we will go out and protest
rage
and do whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
And there are no limits on what we can do, but there's a lot of limits on what you can do. So I think it's important to be out there in big numbers to say, no, you will not keep the Jewish people from speaking. You will not keep American people who stand with them from speaking. You will not keep Israel supporters from speaking. And indeed, there were tons of people out there, very uplifting, very obviously it's a somber subject matter, but a joyfulness to everyone being together, and clearly a lot of gratitude from those who are of the Jewish faith, that many came out who stood beside him who are not.
Yes.
I'll play a little bit from Schumer. Chuck Schumer was standing shoulder to shoulder, by the way, with new Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. Nancy Pelosi was there. Hakeem Jeffries. So it's a bipartisan group at this event. And here's a little bit from Schumer.
We are here united, Democrat and Republican, House and Senate, to say we stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. We stand. We stand. We stand. We stand. We stand. USA, USA, USA. We are with Israel. Never again. Never again. Never again. Never again. In fact, the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in American history, Israel, we in America have your back. And we will not rest until you get all the assistance you need. We will not rest until you get the assistance you need. And today, all of you are here showing we will not hide in the face of adversity in America and in Israel. Am Yisrael Chai. 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 The people Israel here in America and in Israel, the Jewish people will live forever.
I mean, to be fair, much more a protest culture girly than I am. Chuck Schumer, he's got the call and response.
I'm just relieved he was able to get it out, because it sounded like a lot of effort for Chuck. To he's been shooming for a long time, as they say. And anytime there's a red light, he's there.
He got it
But,
going there.
Yeah,
he
he did. Good. Well, good for him.
And big cheers for Israel. Big cheers for him, who is he noted he is the highest ranking Jewish official in United States history.
Not counting Biden, who probably has some story
about
being raised.
Definitely Jewish.
Jewish or something like that.
That's a good point. We should not discount that. Yeah. So huge group out there. Not as much coverage as it would have gotten had it been any other cause. But,
Just curious.
And also, because obviously you're worried about security in these situations, luckily nothing happened.
How did you feel in terms of, did you feel secure, number one, and number two, did you see a lot of security per se?
So there was a lot of uniformed security, but not a ton more than than other protests I've been to. Okay. There were dump trucks posted, parked at various strategic spots so that people couldn't drive something into that area. Yes. There was more of a perimeter, I feel like, than there usually is on the mall for a protest, where it's more of a free-for-all. There were several entry points that you sort of had to go through, at least up towards the front.
And those, I'm sure, are carefully monitored.
But I'm not sure what there was that was invisible.
Right.
But again, felt pretty... the weather was perfect. Everybody was in a good mood.
Yeah, it was.
Lots of great signs. I did see one very determined Orthodox Jewish woman carrying a sign that said, "Didn't we say never again?" And I liked that one.
It's good.
I liked that one. No, so, anyway, one of the sort of auxiliary stories to the Israel rally story is that hundreds of participants got stuck at Dulles.
Oh.
After flying in. Do you know why, Vic?
I'm afraid to ask.
Because the charter bus company that they hired to pick them up at the airport reportedly had a walkout on purpose because the drivers did not want to pick them up.
So not a walkout because of a labor issue, if you will, wages, benefits.
The issue apparently was the Jews. That was the issue. Yeah. So there was an announcement made on a plane that had come from Detroit to say, look, this seems like it was a deliberate act. They're doing some investigating to figure out what company this was.
Yes.
In the meantime, back to our regularly scheduled cultural programming of suing mom and pop shops into non-existence because they won't make gender reaffirming cakes or something. This one probably won't matter so much.
Again, it's always about doing what's easiest for these people, right? It's easy to go after certain. Oh, it's easy to tell the kid with the backpack, "Don't tread on me." You can't bring that in there. That's easy.
Except he stuck up for himself and made it not so easy.
He did.
Yes, the Jewish Federation of Washington confirmed that a speaker at the march told the crowd of nearly 290,000 people that some 900 people who flew in on chartered planes were left at the airport when buses that had been organized for them failed to show up, and that this was deliberate and malicious. So they stayed at the airport, which is a real bummer. In BBC News, you want to hear this one? This is a good one. I got a clip of this one for you. The BBC had to apologize. You're going to enjoy this one for this.
And now an apology from the BBC. BBC News, as it covered initial reports that Israeli forces has entered Gaza's main hospital. We said that medical teams and Arab speakers were being targeted. This was incorrect and misquoted a Reuters report. We should have said IDF forces included medical teams and Arabic speakers for this operation. So we apologise for this error, which fell below our usual editorial standards. The correct version of events was broadcast minutes later.
So what's happening here is that the IDF entering
a slight discrepancy.
Yeah, entering a hospital in Gaza, which has been used as a base for terrorist activity, for Hamas activity, in violation of international law. In entering that hospital, they anticipate that they will have to serve the civilians who have been treated in this way, and therefore they brought medical folks and Arabic speakers so that they could have a sort of continuity of whatever medical services they can provide.
Yes.
Very genocide-y behavior happening here.
No, it's very interesting about what's going on in the hospital. As we know that the IDF, they're in there now. And on CNN, Dan Abash was asking an IDF spokesman saying, she said, well, we still haven't seen evidence yet to prove that, that the Israelis are correct, that the Hamas is using the hospital or storing weapons in the hospital. I'm pretty sure they're finding things right now.
Well, and I believe U.S. government intel has also confirmed
They do.
that
They want to
have
actually
signals of this
see
as
in
well.
real time the loading of weapons. If you're not there, any of this could be planted. It could be planted evidence.
By the way, they still don't need proof for the Gaza Health Ministry's numbers.
Oh,
Those
no.
are fine.
Exact numbers
Those are
of
fine.
every single person. They know exactly how many. The Israeli number keeps on fluctuating. It was 13, 14. It's about 12 right now. But the fact is, they continue to adjust those numbers from an awful, attack that happened a month ago.
Yes.
More than a month ago. And yet immediately, a bomb drops at the hospital, at the Baptist hospital, and suddenly they
know
They
everything.
can tell you exactly. By the way, I don't know if you saw this as well. There was an Al Jazeera reporter in the hospital talking to a Palestinian patient, who's suffering from wounds, an elderly man. And the elderly man says these resistance fighters hide behind these human shields, and I'm sick of it. They can go hide in hell. And as soon as he says that, the reporter turns around and says, meanwhile, anyway, over here, and talked about the Israeli bombing.
Never mind that.
Yeah, it's quite something because, if they can go back and erase it, they will. But the fact is it was being done, it was recorded, and go check that out because it's really quite something.
All right, so that's Israel.
That's
Oops,
where we are.
the BBC says they corrected that one. I'm sure they'll put it on the Metro section next time. All right, so moving
Right
on.
above Georgetown's lost a Holy Cross.
Yeah.
It'll be next to the box score.
Meanwhile, the government will remain open, it seems.
Yes. Great news.
So the House, under the new leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson of Louisiana, passed something 336 to 95, with 209 Democrats and 127 Republicans voting to support it. 93 Republicans voted against it. This will, I believe, get them past the holidays.
That's really the
on
key.
worries about this stuff. It is called of course we call these things the most ridiculous things that nobody can understand.
Yeah.
A laddered continuing resolution is what this
the
is
laddered
called.
CR.
It would fund part of the government, including agriculture, transportation, housing, and urban development, and Veterans Affairs departments through January 19th, and fund the Defense Department and other remaining parts of the government through February 2nd. The CR is clean, with no spending cuts or contentious policy provisions that would alienate Democrats. It also does not include a supplemental package covering things like aid for Israel and Ukraine, humanitarian assistance, or border security, leaving those issues for later in the year. Of course, some are saying, isn't this what McCarthy stood accused of doing?
Yes.
Yes, that is.
Yes.
But that was always, unless I believe you heard it here, that was always more of a personal issue than an actual ideological issue. So now
it was personal and was not business, Sonny.
It was not.
Yeah.
So 93, like I said, 93 Republicans voted against it, which I believe is more than voted against one of the earlier McCarthy attempts at this. So
isn't that funny?
Here we are.
Yes, you had more Democrats voting for this than the Republicans. There's no funding in this particular bill, if I'm not mistaken, for Israel or Ukraine or I think Taiwan and even the border, perhaps.
Yes, that's the word on it.
Yeah,
and
so
the Senate is has already signaled that they're good with this, basically.
Right. The Senate's going to need about 100 votes. They'll need they're going to need 100 votes to approve fast tracking of the bill. Then it'll get to Biden, and let us just assume then Biden at that point will sign it. The reason why, I guess, a lot of those Republicans who still say they like Mike Johnson, so nothing personal here, again, yet. Mm-hmm. But the reason is for like the Freedom Caucus and a lot of their allies, there weren't any cuts at all. There were not even modest cuts. So this is something that Chip Roy was talking about, the Republican. So that's why he didn't vote for it. And then the Democrats voted for it because there were no cuts. But they're worried. They say they're worried because Mike Johnson, the Republicans, they may try to cut back on spending like in the new year, and I hope that Mike Johnson doesn't do that. God forbid you want to trim the deficit.
No,
or anything like
of course not. Look, nobody's excited about it, but it takes away the argument that Republicans are totally incapable of governing. I think, interestingly,
no, they got it done with the help of Democrats. Will be the spin.
I know. And
True.
pre-ouster of McCarthy, there was a shot at a CR that cut
You
spending.
the original.
Yes.
But no.
But we didn't want to do that one.
Matt
so.
Gaetz, who, you didn't hear a peep from him this time around. I don't think, even though, as you're pointing out, this is exactly the sort of thing that McCarthy did that led to his ouster.
Right.
They just don't have the stomach for this right now, not even Matt Gaetz yet.
Well, and the word is that this laddered approach will maybe help them to do the appropriations bills in the way that people have been talking about that they want to do, except people keep voting against the rules to get the appropriations bills, the single, the standalone appropriations bills to the floor, illustrating that perhaps that is not a viable alternative for this caucus. Here's Mike Johnson, for what it's worth, explaining that this is a new way of doing business.
This has been the habit here for decades now, for a long time, as long as I've been in Congress and before, where the Senate jams the House right before the Christmas holiday with a giant bill that's thousands of pages long that very few people have read and spends, last year $1.7 trillion, adding $100 billion in new spending, just sprinkling that on top. That is no way to run a railroad. And so this innovation, this laddered CR that we're doing, prevents that from happening. And I think we'll have bipartisan agreement that that is a better way to do it, to have the actual appropriations process. I began that immediately after I got the gavel, but here we are on the eve of November 17th. We have a shutdown looming, and we've got to prevent that because that would do even more harm for the economy.
Again, I wish him the best, but a lot of these standalone appropriations bills keep getting torpedoed. So we will
So
see what happens.
See you in February is what they're saying. And then come February, then they have these again grander dreams of having this long-term spending or resolution. But the fact is, every time I hear this, I can't help but think of writers. I'm wondering if they're politicians or are they writers? Because oftentimes I have writers ask me for extensions all the time, and you know what they say?
No comment.
If I can just delay it, I promise an even bigger piece. And then
It's going to be better.
Yeah, and the editors when I was at the Standard, we'd have to ask certain writers, just send us what you got now. We'll approve that. Just give us the small.
By
bit.
the way, I'm that writer. Just
no comment.
Many are.
No names.
But I'm one of them.
No names.
They're like, I'm just sitting on 1,500 words. Like, I can't send it. I can't send it.
Just send.
And Vic's like, can you please send it?
Give us 500.
Okay. There's some fights going on Capitol Hill that are not just rhetorical. As mentioned earlier in the show, I'm going to lead with this one because this one already happened.
Yes.
Hold on. You ready for this? Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee said former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy elbowed him in the back over his vote to oust him from his leadership post. The Tennessee representative was talking to a reporter following a closed-door Republican conference meeting when the ousted speaker walked past behind him and hit him in the back. The Tennessee Republican, who was one of 8 GOP members who voted to remove McCarthy in October, said it was purposeful. I was one of the 8 that voted him out, Burchett told reporters Tuesday morning, calling McCarthy a bully. He's mean and he knows it, he added, believing the exchange to be personal. It's not very surprising. It was uncool. A guy throws a rock over the fence when he was a kid and runs home and hides behind his mama's skirt. He's got his security detail around, so he knows nobody's going to do anything to it.
What's the security detail? Kevin McCarthy still gets the security detail?
I'm sure he did at the time. He hadn't been ousted
at the time.
Yet.
Got it.
Maybe
okay.
he hadn't been ousted yet.
Yes, his henchman. It's... I believe the line that stood out to me from Tim Burchett was, quote, a clean shot to the kidneys.
Yes, it was a rabbit punch.
Right, like this, and that's a very vulnerable area. But unclear. McCarthy denies it, and there's only one way to prove this.
What's that?
Your analysis. That's how you could tell, if it's discolored, if you know what I'm talking about, then the kidney. He got hit in the kidney.
See, now I was just going to say perhaps one of those reporters saw it or recorded it. But no, I think your way is better.
Your analysis would look at the color and say, oh, look,
Matt Gaetz, by the way,
has
called for a House ethics investigation into
he's
this
filed.
matter.
They filed a complaint.
They gotta figure this one out. Oh, my dear me. Okay.
And that's just one.
That's just one of the fights.
But that actually happened, supposedly, allegedly.
All right. Now, this one stars Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin.
That is quite a first name.
It is indeed. That's a real Oklahoma first name.
That's one word, listeners. Markwayne.
Yes. Now, that's a country song first name right there. Markwayne. He, in a Senate hearing, was talking to Sean O'Brien, a Teamsters head, and about a tweet that at some point the Teamsters guy had sent. And this is the dialogue that ensued.
Like he's self-made. Sir, I wish he was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, any time, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution,
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down.
Okay.
You're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it. If we can, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing.
I love it. I love Bernie Sanders at his age refereeing this because he's a United States Senator. You know, you want to take it outside, take it out. Don't do it in the committee room. The first thing that came to mind
I
was,
like that that's your line because I feel like that's my line too. They should fight, but they should do it
just
outside.
take it outside. Not that these hallowed halls. The first thing that I thought about two things, Mary Catherine.
Mm-hmm.
One was Dr. Strangelove. You know, gentlemen, there's no fighting in the war room. You know, and it happens right by the buffet table. The second thing is, and this really did happen during the George H.W. Bush administration. And James Baker and Jack Kemp were in the Oval Office with Bush, and they got into a heated fight that got physical. And the two of them went after each other in the Oval Office, and Brent Scowcroft, who was the National Security Advisor, had to wedge himself in between to separate them. And Brent's a tiny man. General Scowcroft is a small, old guy. He was small, old at the time, and he's like, break it up. And so I don't know how far this would have gone if they were... and keep in mind, Mark Wayne Mullen, Senator Mullen, he's a mixed martial arts expert.
I'm not surprised. Okay.
And the other guy's a Teamster, which means he's also a professional.
Proficient.
Let's just say that he's a professional.
No, so normally my take would be, can y'all please act like grown-ups? However, Teamster guy over here has issued a threat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you issue online threats, I do feel like it makes a more polite society if occasionally you run up against the physical real-life consequences of those online threats. Now, I'm with you. Let's be cordial. Mm-hmm. Let's not do it in the hearing room, right? But I also have another proposition.
Okay.
Could we fund the government with a pay-per-view of this contest? Because I feel like Mark Wayne from Oklahoma,
in a cage,
tough guy, MMA trained apparently, has probably swallowed his share of dip spit in his life. Can't mess with a dude like that. And then you got a guy whose actual Twitter handle is Teamster SOB. Yeah. That man has beaten up a lot of people and has owned many pairs of brass knuckles.
He may have a neck size larger than mine. It's pretty serious.
It's pretty serious. And we could watch those guys go several rounds.
I wonder if Mullen was taken aback by his response, which was, I would love to.
I mean, he couldn't have been because you know you're dealing with a Teamster.
I just think that,
Teamster's like, this is my specialty.
Yeah, right. They do this. When people get called out in these, committee hearings and confirmation hearings, et cetera, about bad social media, they usually very carefully, gingerly, dial it back and say, well, in this case, it's like, yep,
no,
it's going on.
In a way,
I meant every word.
In a way, they deserve each other, and in a way, we deserve to watch the fight. This is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's right.
This is all I'm saying. So we'll get that set up.
2 men enter, 1 man leave.
Octagon. They should put an octagon in the rotunda. That's it.
Thunderdome. Okay.
All right. We got more.
Yeah, we do.
You know what? There's another way to deal with online incivility.
Oh.
Nikki Haley has some thoughts.
It's an idea. It's a suggestion.
Okay, let me play this for you guys. This is Nikki Haley speaking on Fox News. She's getting a lot of blowback on this idea. You ready?
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
And they know their pastor and their family member is going to see it. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country.
Okay.
Mary Catherine, you were quick to respond to this. I'm just going to say you first. You had an immediate reaction to this, and I have to say that my immediate reaction was not. I got what she was saying, and I understand how she feels, but please.
It's a big no for me.
It's a big no, right?
It's a big no.
There was no hesitation in your mind, like, oh, I can understand because, people hide behind, they're cowardly and they'll say terrible things behind their,
And look, there are times that I disagree with candidates who I generally like. This is one of them, right? DeSantis has made a couple moves that I feel like on free speech grounds are not great, like ordering all of these chapters to close when I think probably that's the school's area to enforce that. I don't love the government taking that on, but they're smaller quibbles than this one.
Yes.
This one is the federal government is going to say that your name has to be associated with your online persona. Mine is, but that is a cost of doing business as a public figure.
Yes.
And it is a cost because, my family takes some hits and, we have to deal with sort of a higher risk profile for that reason. There are plenty of people who have good reason to be under a pseudonym when they're writing online.
Security concerns.
Or just like they have a job that they don't want someone bothering them over their tweets.
And they can have some amazing inside scoop, but they would lose their job if they got outed.
So she repeated it on the Ruthless podcast.
She doubled down.
Yeah, here we go.
They need to verify every single person on their outlet and I want it by name. Because when
what about Smug? Does he qualify?
I've provided them with my government.
If Smug is on your driver's license, then and look, you can put Smug in parentheses, but I want everybody's name.
No. The president's saying, I need your driver's license to have a social media account, and you can put your name in parentheses, your nickname in parentheses after your name, and that she needs names. No, I'm a no.
Yeah. Was this spontaneous? I mean, I don't think, for example, I don't think on the one hand that, she had a campaign staff coming up with a white paper to develop this idea of how to verify and how to prevent the Russian bots, et cetera. And I understand there's concern.
Though.
On the other hand, she and her advisors had to have given this some thought.
I agree.
Before going out there, right? And she's not shooting from the hip, is she?
No, I don't think she is. I don't think she is. And look, now this could be massaged into, well, I would encourage social media companies to verify.
Put your money where your mouth is.
And look, some of them do, and that is fine. In order to get the blue check, I think you have to prove who you are, right?
Allah pundit is no longer Allah pundit.
Right. So you have
baseball crank.
You have to do these things engaging with certain private entities.
Yeah. Or when they feel it's safe enough to then come out.
Don't think that the government should be telling those private entities that they must verify Americans. And further, this sort of sounds like the verification maybe would run through the government. And I don't like that at all. First of all, none of the social media would work anymore. It would all break down. Actually, maybe this is a silver lining. Now that
do you think they're doing a lot of damage control? Do you think it's strictly social media? You know how we were talking about this the other day, and I get so worked up over all the awful, awful anti-Israel sentiments you see on social media, and then a poll comes out, actually most Americans are pro-Israel.
Right.
Are we overreacting, or is this a serious deal for her campaign?
Honestly, I think a lot of normies look at it and go, yeah, you should be verified, and they stop thinking about it there.
Yeah.
So I may be weirder, and I think people online, of course, react more strongly to stuff like this. Ron DeSantis's response to this, and then I'm going to give her a chance to do some of her follow-up. Ron DeSantis says, who were anonymous writers back in the day? Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, James Madison when they wrote the Federalist Papers. They were not national security threats, nor are the many conservative Americans across the country who exercise their constitutional right to voice their opinions without fear of being harassed or canceled by the school they go to or the company they work for. Haley's proposal to ban anonymous speech online, similar to what China recently did, is dangerous and unconstitutional. It will be dead on arrival in my administration. So tough words, and I want to give her
Publius.
I'll give her the last word, where she was on Squawk Box talking about this.
We need our social media companies to verify everybody so that we can get all of those.
So you're not really
back.
saying that people can't tweet anonymous. I mean, but that's bad enough because you see what it's doing to our kids and bullying and everything else.
Do I think life would be more civil if we were able to do that? Yes. It's the same reason why I think doxing, like, you should stand by what you say. But no, like, if you can have anonymous, I don't mind anonymous American people having free speech.
Okay.
What I don't like is anonymous Russians and Chinese and Iranians having free speech. How would the conversation?
Did she almost say Chinaman? Did she almost say that? I thought China.
I think that's unfair.
Okay.
To her.
Okay. I'll have to do I'll go back and do the analysis.
I think, like, anonymous free speech doesn't really exist if you're requiring the verification, because you can't actually always tell the difference between the Americans and the bots unless, from her point of view, unless the government is able to verify these things or order someone to verify these things. So where does the anonymity come from? I confused.
I'll tell you what, it would my dating profile would take a real hit if I put my name.
So
you don't want to know my
point being
handle.
When it comes to online civility, give me Mark Wayne's strategy over Nikki's.
Mark Wayne's strategy. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Very
we did a Teamster. Now let's do some strikes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
2 strikes are over now. The UAW staged an unprecedented strike against the big 3 Detroit automakers, and they basically won a lot of things. I'm going to run through some of them. Those contracts will clearly benefit UAW workers. If ratified by members, the new contracts would lock in raises in wages of at least 25%, and for some temps, as much as 168%. Can we apply for one of those?
Yeah.
As well as boost retirement contributions and other benefits. This, of course, will have cascading effects through the car industry, through the rest of the economy.
The consumers.
The average car price right now, having gone skyrocketed since the pandemic and through all these supply chain issues, is $50,000 for a new car right now. You also have trouble getting used cars. Those have dried up as well. And so it will have cascading effects. Obviously, costs go up for the companies.
Yeah.
The ones that are non-union, their workers going to be looking over there like, hey, inflation's killing me. So what are you guys going to do for me? Which might then raise prices for the non-union shops as well. And all of that, by the way, is to give these folks more money, which I understand because inflation is a pain.
Sure.
But once they have the more money and they're spending the more money, do we get more inflation?
Yeah.
This is the bind that the Biden administration has put itself in.
So the UAW and the head, what's his name, Fain, is the riding high right now. And
UAW SOB, I think is his handle.
Oh, really?
No, I'm just kidding. It would be great if all labor leaders had SOB at the end.
And, they almost tried flipping Volkswagen and getting them to unionize, and they lost by just a handful of votes. They're now focused on Honda and Subaru. And Fain had said that, they talk about the big 3. He wants it to be the big 5 or the big 6, and trying to entice them. The problem, as you mentioned, is none of this gets solved by the CEO having a smaller bonus or taking a pay cut.
Right.
It comes down to us, the consumer, and wanting to, purchase a car, but now having second thoughts because it's even more expensive than ever. I have, speaking of which, a Subaru that is up for my lease is expiring in the summer, and already got an email saying they would like to buy my used car.
I bet they would.
They might even take it with the dent from the parking.
I let go
garage.
of my old Honda, and I sort of regret it because it was a stick shift 2002 that I really enjoyed driving. I gave.
Oh wow!
But I love driving it, and that one's going to survive an EMP. None of the other cars are.
No. I saw War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
I
can drive that sucker
the
around.
Electric cars are doomed.
Now I can't fit all my family, so we're going to have to cut a few people.
So dark. So dark.
All right. Also,
did you want to talk about the Supreme Court or no? Do we have time for that or no?
You know what? Let's give the people an update. That's a good point. But we have 2 strikes to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Let's do the other strike.
But you know what? Hold on. I'm going to give the people a brief SCOTUS update.
Yeah.
Because you have correctly called me out on this, and we'll take it outside after the podcast. But the Supreme Court has announced that it is going to adopt an ethics code, sort of in response to what I think is basically unfair criticism.
Yeah, beginning
of the
with
court
ProPublica and others.
That is politically motivated, that only deals with conservative
for some reason.
Justices. Nonetheless, they didn't have anything codified, even though they were following the ethics code of federal courts in general. They were already doing that. But they announced a code of conduct in an attempt to bolster the public's confidence in the court after months of news stories alleging that some of the justices have been skirting ethics regulations. This is CNN reporting. In a brief statement, that justices said the code is substantially derived from an existing code of conduct that applies to the lower court, but has been adapted to the unique institutional setting of the Supreme Court. While the justices reiterate in the code they should maintain and observe high standards of conduct in order to preserve the integrity and independence of the United States, they fail to explain how the code would work and who would enforce it. That's because no one's in charge of SCOTUS, guys. Because we have co-equal branches of government.
This would be...
Thank you. Welcome to my civics class, CNN Politics.
The judiciary branch. One of the worst critics of this, of course, has been the Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And his plan, of course, was to basically subjugate the Supreme Court to Congress, and they get to decide a lot of these rules. And in particular,
easy peasy.
The right of recusal was going to be determined by lower courts. That's a terrible idea.
There's so many bad ideas here, and so much unawareness of the system.
You're never going to placate these people. And in fact, after the court announced that they had adopted this code of ethics, Sheldon Whitehouse responded, "Step 1 is done."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
many more things to do.
I'm a little uncertain about whether you even give this SOP to people, because if you are following a code of ethics for courts,
right,
then you're doing the thing you're supposed to do.
Right.
But I guess they're like, okay, we'll tighten up the requirements a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, about having business before the court if you have people that you're related to, friendly with, taking trips with, whatever. Not that Harlan Crow.
But by the way, none of these stories have alleged that these people are in front of the court.
And yet, but that becomes the narrative.
Yeah.
So that, I saw a bit on from the comedian Leslie Jones talking about none of this makes a difference until we get rid of the corrupt justices.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Corrupt? How?
Sure.
Why? What? Because they went on a fishing trip with somebody who didn't have business before
they
the court?
They can't have friends, guys. All right. Okay. Back to the other.
Sorry.
Speaking of Leslie Jones, let's go to Hollywood. The SAG-AFTRA strike is over. I know you guys were missing...
Did we all forget that it was on?
A little bit we did. I know you guys were missing the late night shows when they weren't on.
All those amazing jokes.
Yes. Yeah. The actors' strike is over, with the union representing performers last week approving a tentative agreement with Hollywood studios. Leaders of the Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, characterized the deal as a big win, with the contract achieving significant breakthroughs on actors' pay and putting guardrails on the industry's use of generative AI. So there's minimum compensation increases, 3.5 or 7% wage increase effective immediately, 3.5 increase on in 2025. Streaming bonuses. This will be interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Because they're going to reward streaming success, they are requiring that these companies be more transparent about the numbers with the streaming.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have more data on what actual consumption of entertainment looks like these days. They might be careful what they wish for here, because stats might not be as good as the Netflixes of the world are telling us.
That's exactly right for certain shows. And then for other shows, I mean, it's interesting, and I think I mentioned this the last time we talked about the strike. The actor from Breaking Bad and El Camino, Aaron Paul, said that he doesn't collect anything from my viewing of Breaking Bad on Netflix.
Right.
Whereas
does he have a tip jar somewhere I could just hit it?
Whereas cast members of like Seinfeld, for example, their show in syndication on TBS, they make a mint.
Oh, I'm sure. No, some of these things I think are very fair concerns.
Sure. And especially the AI stuff.
The AI stuff.
Which very much concerns me. I
they-
think we should have no AI at all.
No AI.
Not even the
all.
movie with the kid from The Sixth Sense.
Get rid of it.
Get that movie.
Haley Joel is going to be
Thank
very
you, Haley
upset
Joel
with
Osment.
you.
Thank you. I forgot his name.
So much for his his money, his residuals. That's what they call those
You know what?
things.
I can say this. I can say about Haley Joel Osment, with the exception of the one appearance I saw him on. I think he was in the what is that bachelor party movie? The Hangover, right? He has a cameo in one of the sequels.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, I can say about Haley Joel Osment what my in-laws say about Drew Barrymore. Whatever happened to? Okay.
So they've upped the minimum number of background actors who are paid. This one was interesting. Relocation bonuses. Performers in series who have to relocate for work will be entitled to a maximum relocation benefit of up to $5,000 a month for 6 months, a 200% increase on the previous amount. That one to me is like, you're in this highly competitive business and they want you, by the way, the reason you're relocating, I'm sure in most cases, is because Georgia's a cheaper place or Romania is a cheaper place to do business than California is. So California has made itself this bed where all these productions are leaving.
Yep.
And if you have to go to Atlanta for 6 months, to me, that is the cost of being in a highly competitive business. And a lot of other people could do the lighting work or could star in whatever streaming series you're doing. So I'm interested in that one as a
how does that
perk.
work? Yeah, exactly.
Like to me, that would be the you're an intern and you're like, sure, I'm going to go to Atlanta. This is my big break.
It'd be kind of exciting.
I mean, who knew your big break would be in Atlanta? But yeah, I'm just saying, or Romania, wherever.
Yeah, absolutely. Canada, a lot of them, it's Canada for.
I was a little surprised by that one.
By the way, if you ever watched, for example, The Americans, remember that series on FX, and there's scenes in DC with very few exceptions, it was all in Canada. And you're like, this is not an American. This is not DC at all.
There's a movie with that stars Russell Crowe and Rachel McAdams, and I can't think of the name of it right now. In fact, I'm going to look it up while I'm sitting here.
Russell Crowe and Rachel McAdams.
Yes, it was, and it was set in DC. State of Play.
Oh, State of Play.
And Rachel McAdams. It's a very 2009 movie because Rachel McAdams plays a blogger who's found her way into a newsroom, and she's conflicting with the old guard.
Oh, you're killing me
she's
now.
investigating interesting
Is this
and
based on
important
Anna Marie
things.
Cox? Who is this?
State of Play. The point being, it is filmed in DC, but the geography is all wrong, and the buildings are all wrong, and it's just fun to be that pedantic viewer sometimes.
Yes.
And I was watching it. I saw it in a theater. I was watching it at the theater in Georgetown. And that is where the initial opening, like murder scene chase, ends like right in front of the theater. We're like, what happened?
Oh, that's
very,
wild.
Very
that's
realistic.
wild.
It was like watching a 3D film. Anyway, all right, moving on. Oh, I should note, on the artificial intelligence point, film and TV producers must obtain consent from actors to create and use their digital replicas, as well as specify how they intend to use that digital likeness. Actors are entitled to compensation at their usual rate for the number of days that would otherwise have been paid to do the work being performed by a digital replica. Wow, that's a good deal. But fair. I think that's fair.
Yes.
It's fair.
Yeah. So fine.
So I'm going to get an AI in here, and then I'm going to get paid for it to sit here.
like a phantom image, a phantom image. They do
That's
that
right.
like Prince
Like
in concert
Tupac.
or like Tupac. Yeah.
That's right. I'm going to be over here, and you guys are going to enjoy that. Okay. You want to talk about the Marvels to close up here?
I don't think we have enough time, but go ahead.
We do.
Go ahead.
Sure we do.
Tell us what happened. How did it do? This is a great movie. This is a movie that we were,
So this is the...
this I have to put on my old hat. I have to dust off the old hat from that other podcast.
Well,
I haven't done it in so long.
I just want to chat about
I don't know how
the
to
fact.
talk about it.
The Marvels is a... why am I blanking on the name of the brand?
What do you mean, Captain Marvel?
No, the Avengers.
MCU.
All these...
The Avengers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No.
What? And Endgame.
You know why I'm blanking on it? Because it is Marvel, the Marvel universe.
Yeah, the Marvel universe.
Okay.
Okay, the Marvel. Yeah. The MCEU.
I confused myself.
Marvel Comics Expanded Universe. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I know things. All right. The Marvels, which is this...
You know, the sub-beacon's yelling at us right now.
Which is this movie with 3 empowered female characters
Right, you
as
already
the
lost me.
leads.
Yeah.
Including Carol something, who's
Brie Larson.
Captain Marvel, Brie
Yeah,
Larson,
yeah.
a couple other chicks. Anyway,
A couple other.
one of them is...
that Mary Catherine said that.
One of them is Rambeau from the last Marvel thing I watched.
Not Sylvester
WandaVision.
Stallone, but from
Yes.
she made
from WandaVision.
Yeah, WandaVision. Yeah.
Anyway, it didn't do well, Vic. It didn't open successfully.
It wasn't like 200, 150.
No, it was like
100.
What was it like?
47.
Oof. It didn't open well.
47 million.
And what got me is there's this insane thread. And
Everyone's like, if only.
Read a couple tweets from it.
Sure. A little defensive.
Any reporting on the Marvel's box office that doesn't mention the fact that its stars were on strike and unable to promote it at all is incomplete and irresponsible at best.
Yeah, that would have made a big
Promotional
difference.
materials have immense value. That stuff helps build movie-going experiences now. That's the first thing that should be included. But there are others. The ongoing right-wing grift hate campaign against its top-billed performer. The new storm of false bullshit surrounding its director. The fact that it's a more diverse film than the first one. The fact that one of the shows it follows underperformed on streaming, except in people of color POC households. Because of general misogyny, Islamophobia, people not taking teenage girls seriously, and getting sent out to die against a legacy Star Wars Kenobi. The fact that this is the first project taking the specific bullet of parts of the buildup were behind a paywall, I guess he means in movie theaters, it won't be the last thing to experience this for Marvel and Lucasfilm, for Disney overall, or for Hollywood in general. But of course, it has to be the film starring a diverse trio of women directed by a black woman that goes out and deals with this landscape first. Do we buy these arguments?
No.
I mean, it could just be that the movie's not good.
Yes.
And it could just be that people are kind of tired of the Marvel
Right.
thing.
If you're not watching on Disney Plus, whether it be Loki or WandaVision or Winter Soldier, I have no idea which
I don't even
ones.
know
The
what's
one
there
with
out there
Hawkeye,
anymore.
the other one. I
tried watching a couple. WandaVision's the last one I enjoyed.
Tried is the operative word because it said, "Oh, I love these movies. I'm willing to give it a chance." And then I'm like, this thing is dragging. The production qualities look bad. I'm not a big fan of that CGI special effects. It's just not doing it for me. And you're trying to, beat me to death with a message, as opposed to a story.
There are like 7 more tweets in that thread, by the way. I'm sparing you guys. But
who's the tweeter?
This is Alden Diaz,
Really
who
worked
has ACH. Oh, he runs a Star Wars podcast.
Okay.
So
wow.
It's just Occam's razor here.
Yeah.
It might not be that good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the misogyny.
That's right. Again, I started to lose interest. It's funny, on TV they were showing a rerun of Marvel Avengers Endgame, which is the last of that series.
Right.
And it was early on. It's the one where they travel back in time. It's really good.
Yes.
It's really
Many of them are good.
good. And it's funny. And you almost get a little teary-eyed, particularly because everyone loses family members. Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, but also Thor, and he sees his mother. And and Renee Russo plays the mother, and she's amazing, and she still looks great, and
That was not lost on
and then from there to this, I'll tell you, for example, it's just a bit much for me. It's not for everybody. There are people probably who love this. They want to eat it up. Great.
There's just not that many of them, apparently.
I saw the sequel to Doctor Strange. Did not like it at all.
I liked the original Doctor Strange. I
liked the original Doctor Strange as well. The sequel, the heroine, she comes from another universe or another dimension. Marvel or Disney was very excited because she's openly lesbian because she wears the rainbow pin. I'm watching this in an IMAX theater. That pin's the size of a Volkswagen. It was huge. And
I just think stuff gets played out.
And
Marvel is feeling very played out.
My favorite scene in that Doctor Strange sequel is where they catch a glimpse of her universe where she was taken from. It's this other dimension, this wonderful dimension. And it's like a stream and a grove. It's very verdant. And there's these 2 women. And then she says, "Oh, those are mi madres." And I'm like, okay, just...
Marvel has 2 mommies.
Yeah, Marvel has 2 mommies in this sort of Latinx LGBT Garden of Eden. Anyway, if it's your cup of tea, great. I'm not stopping you from seeing this movie, but don't force all of us to watch this movie and then complain why did it only make $47 million.
Your misogyny has ruined it.
I know, I get it.
Has
I'll tell
ruined it.
Can I tell you, Mary Catherine, before we run out of time, an amazing movie that I saw?
Sure. What?
Okay, so we're talking about horror movie. I'm talking about an amazing movie, and it's been so long since I've seen a great movie like this. No Hard Feelings, starring Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, I do want to see this.
This is such a wonderful sort of send up or attribute to 1980s coming of age movies, but
Porky style movie.
But because it's not actual Porky's or the 1980s anymore, a lot of thought put into the ending. Surprisingly sweet, extremely raunchy. So listeners, parents, you're forewarned. Adults, be forewarned, not for the kids. But there are some amazing scenes in this movie, jokes aside, of Jennifer Lawrence, that are basically an indictment of the current generation of kids, particularly a bunch of these kids going to Princeton.
So I want to see this movie, and I should actually be more proactive about seeing movies like that in the theater that I want to reward with my business. I should do that. The premise of this movie, everyone.
Oh, sorry.
And I'll euphemize it. Yeah. Is that basically some helicopter parents with a kid who's going to college
he's 19.
Pay a woman, Jennifer Lawrence, to deflower.
Yes. Well, so, it's very funny because she says, so you're paying me to date him or to date him? And Matthew Broderick and the wife, they're like, oh, definitely date him. So I mean, it's this idea about this is what she has to do.
I love Jennifer Lawrence, and she's a great comic actress among her many other talents, and I am interested in how this is dealt with. So I'm gonna go watch it.
No spoilers. Just go and watch and enjoy. It's thoroughly enjoyable with a very positive message. I'm not kidding. Okay.
Empowering. All right, I think that's it, right?
I think that's it.
We did a lot of stuff.
Yes, I have one quick correction. I mentioned the Farms of Athenry and the Side Saddle Bistro in Middleburg, Virginia.
Yes.
The Bolins, that's the couple's name. I said elderly. I didn't mean to say elderly couple. I meant to say an older couple. An older couple. Apparently, their kids are making fun of them now because of this. So sorry about that. Slightly older than me.
Yes.
Slightly older, just a couple years. Okay, good. That wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Victorino Mattis.
I'm at MK Hammer on Twitter, at MK Hammer Time on Instagram. Please follow the show at Getting Hammered Podcast on YouTube or Instagram. Thanks for getting hammered responsibly. This has been a Nebulous Media Podcast.